Welcome to Sessions with Mom. This is episode number 2. Good morning, Mom.
Morning, Charlie.
How are you?
I'm pretty good, feeling pretty good.
I know, me too. So we were supposed to record yesterday, so it's Sunday morning. But yesterday we went to Ali Hebre and pigged out, and then by the time we got home, it was like, oh man, like we're not really energized. So we're doing this Sunday morning at 7. So it's
Oh,
different kind of feeling. So we're just waking up. The early birds are catching the worm. So So anyway, yeah. Yesterday was great. Thank you for that. I had a great time with you and Curtis.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. We got the
Anytime I'm with you is awesome.
Oh, that's so sweet, ma. Same. That's the same. So we were gonna get the chicken fajitas, and then we got the chicken fajita quesadilla, which turned out to be great.
Yeah, I was going to be rude, but I thought I'm going to follow your lead because you were. Oh my God, they made all this food. I don't want to say nothing, but the reality of it was you did say chicken fajitas, but I shut my big mouth and just let you go.
Yeah, that was like a first for that. But honestly, like it,
You liked it anyway.
I loved it. Like when I looked at it, when I looked at it though, I was like, holy crap! Like this is gonna actually be more hearty than if I do get the chicken fajitas and less work. So I was like, let me try it. And like next time I go back, I'll never get the chicken fajitas again. I'll always get the chicken fajita quesadilla. So,
Well, I want to tell you something. The next time I want to go to the place up near you. It is delicious,
oh,
Charlie.
the one you were
I
looking at the
want you
menu
to
for,
try
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yes, I want you to try that.
All right.
All right.
So, so yeah. So a lot happened this week. A lot of stuff, a lot of family stuff, a lot of all kind of stuff. But it was a good week, and I really appreciate you, mom, and like, you know, I go like ever since I was like, what do you think? I was like 14 when I started drinking.
I thought it was like 12. No,
Nah,
was it? You know better than me. I don't know.
I think it was like 14 or 15. I think it was like eighth grade going to ninth when I started going out to like back streets and started going to like the underage
Uh,
21 clubs and stuff. Um, and it was kind of like before that, I was still a kid. I was skateboarding, playing baseball at the park. Remember the whole thing. And then once I wanted to start going out and like in the girls, like my grades started dropping, and that's when like I started really living for like there's like a slogan like living for the weekend. Like I really started living for everything outside, and everything else just kind of didn't exist. So like even with baseball, I was really good at baseball, but it was always like I was always looking forward to after the game. You know what I mean? I was always looking forward to after school. And I say that to say like through my life, I went through periods. Like at one point, I was totally clean for 4 years, and then I go through points where I would go up and I would go down. And one thing with you, mom, especially after like this past 2 year spurt, you know what I mean? Like you're the only one who always truly unconditionally loved and supported me. That said, you were always the one that also when I'm going through struggles, when I go through addiction, stuff like that, like you're the one who doesn't co-sign anything. It's interesting. So like give some of your feedback, mom, like what that was like for you, like starting at 14 till now, because there's so many things. Like one more thing, and then I give it over to you. But like you said to me, Charlie, like we're not even close anymore. I was like, Mom, what do you mean this and that? And then I said to you the past couple weeks, like, man, you were right, Mom. Like when I am like sober and focused on my path and like not lost and escaping constantly, like you and I are extremely close. So like you told that story about when I was born, it was just me and you in this world all together. Like we still have that bond, mom. You know what I mean? And I really love you and appreciate you for that. And like this time around, and like us really doing this together, like it's really prevalent, and I really notice it right now. I'm really more than I ever have before. You know what I mean?
wow. Yeah, I remember Velma. Remember our neighbor,
Yeah,
Velma?
Velma and
She,
Jen and them. That was the first time I ever drank, and all those
yeah.
girls were there. And I took a sip. I was a Nick Chernowski, and but I just took a sip, and that was it because I was afraid to. But that was the first
Yeah.
time.
You remember that first sip?
Um, Yeah, but like but it was
Remember how it made you feel?
well, I was so scared though, so that one didn't really count.
Okay,
Yeah, that didn't really count.
okay.
That was more
Well, I
for like
remember her.
fitting in, you know.
Huh?
That was more to fit in, you know what I mean?
Okay. Oh yeah. So you wanted to fit in. Oh boy, did you fit in. I remember Velma calling me and saying Charlie was drinking, and I said, "Oh no, you got the wrong Charlie. My Charlie would not drink." That's what I said to Velma, and that was my start of my denial. And yeah, you. I mean, you were like the most awesome kid. You know that you were the most awesome kid, and then once you picked up, totally you started changing. But I was in such denial. I did not want to believe that you were drinking or doing anything. So, and we had such a dynamic. You had a dad, you went to your dad. There was so much involved in all that. Like, I was always afraid you were going to go live with your dad and not me. So all of that got in the way of me really seeing you change and really paying attention to what was really happening to you. So that was all messed up. And yeah, you were off and running, and our relationship totally. I was always enabling you, Charlie. I was your biggest enabler, and I hurt you the most. As much as I love you unconditionally, I've hurt you the most. And um, I remember senior year how I used to remember senior year for you.
Yeah, I would like sleep in and never go in. I remember the principal took us in one time and he was like, I missed like 38, 40 days or something. I did like 40 half days, and he said, if you do another half day, you're not going to graduate. And I was like, oh man, like I'll definitely do it. And then the next day I did another half day, and they never, no one ever really made me pay the price because I always had that personality, mom. You know what I mean? Like they genuinely liked me and were rooting for me. You know, so I had a lot of enablers in that way. And then if you remember, I'll never say like there were certain teachers that would maybe pass me, but there was one, Mrs. McCormick. I'll never forget it. Like I got caught cheating on the final. I was sitting next to a girl and like the first two parts, like I was like copying, and it was like maybe like two answers. I would put like a different one to make it look different. So halfway through the test, Mrs. McCormick came over. This is my senior year. This is the final. If I don't pass this test, I don't graduate. You know what I mean? And she came over. She was like, Charlie, I'm going to put you at the window for the second half of the test. And I was like, Miss McCormick, like, you can't do that. You like I'm in a zone over here. You know what I mean? I knew like the minute like I had to go to the window, it was over. So like I just started filling out whatever. Well, at the end of the day, I went to see her. I was like, hey, Miss McCormick, given that personality, given that charm, hey, Miss McCormick, how'd I do on the final? And she goes, Charlie, well, I got good news and bad news. I was like, oh, well, what's the good news? She said, for the first two parts, before I moved you, you got an 88% and an 84%. I was like, oh, awesome. She was like, what'd you get? I said, well, how'd I do for the second two parts? She was like, well, when I moved you, you got a 44% and a 42%. And then I was like, oh man, Miss McCormick, I knew that was going to happen. I studied so hard, but I didn't know that second half. It was all bullshit, right? She failed me. And I didn't graduate that year with my class. I had to go to a board meeting to get my diploma. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was all addiction based, all addiction based. And then I went to the intermediate school at the graduation where my buddy Greg was at, and all those people. And I had a 40. I was smoking blunts, and I was so cool. You know what I mean? But that was the beginning of my downfall. Then I go to college, and I'm doing spectacular at a junior college, possibly be able over to transfer to West Virginia. I'm out every night in West Virginia getting hammered. And I wound up quitting that, and I come home, and that was off to the races. So not to get ahead of you, but Miss McCormick was actually the one that never co-signed my shit. And that was where the journey began as an adult then, you know what I mean? So I like that just, so you did enable me in a lot, but like the part where you always were there for me without punishing me when I came back around is the part that really is
Right.
important to me, Mom. That's that nurturing. So
Well,
I would always say, you don't nurture me, you don't love me. No, you always nurture me, but when it's the right time.
yeah. Yeah, and when you were talking about high school, your senior year, and we were talking about enablers. Yeah. Um, how about when you were playing baseball in high school? They didn't enable you then. Some of them did enable you then, and guess why? Guess why they didn't enable you when you were playing baseball?
What do
because
you?
they wanted to win. So it was some of them, you know what I mean? Some of them
Oh,
was it
I
was on their selfish part.
so I'd be
They let you do whatever you wanted.
well. Sometimes you'd be ineligible, but then you'd have to like run around and like take a quiz or something to get your grade up so you could play in the game. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but that part, like
yeah.
that part. So yeah, you had many enablers, and some of them your senior year did not enable you, and I did not. I did not go up the steps. I did not drag you out of your bed. You smoked so much freaking pot, and every day you just slept away, and that was like, holy crap! You are not going to graduate. It was killing me, but you didn't graduate, and then you finally went and got your GED. Thank God.
No, not my
I never heard
GED.
you.
I have a high school diploma. I had to go to summer school, which I went to. And
Correct.
then
I'm
they,
sorry.
they
You're right.
they had a board meeting. I remember the day vividly because I didn't invite you up there. What are you going to come to a board meeting to watch them call my name and give me this
That's right.
diploma? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I came home. It was like the end of July or some shit. You were at the house, and I walked in. Hey, ma, I got my diploma. You know what I mean? Like, so I got my diploma. I just didn't get to wear like the
And
cap and
also,
gown.
I
You know what I mean?
never heard that. Yeah, and I never heard that story when you said you went with a 40 in a blunt. That just is so freaking sad.
Yeah.
I could bawl right now, but I'm not
Don't
gonna.
bawl, mom. Look how far I've
I'm
come. You
not
know what I
gonna
mean?
bawl. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, you were off and running, and then oh God, what did we talk? What else did you talk about?
when
You were off and running, and what?
No, I'm just saying like I just brought it back to that because I was saying about how like you're the one person who always never turned her back on
Yeah.
me. But then
Yes, I
you've
never would turn my back
never
on
and you've worked so much in yourself, you know what I
nothing
mean? And
new.
over the years we've really evolved, you know what I mean? And there were
Yes.
you know so and you're right, like let's take it back to that like you were afraid that I was going to leave and stuff, right? This is good for like, cause there's a lot of parents that are split with their kid, and their kids are being brought up in two different households, you know. And ours was chaotic,
Uh,
right? And my dad did show up, like so, you know that's a fact. Like he wanted to be in my life. My nana and pop were a savior, but for you, you
yeah.
know, it was always like, and that hurt me too. But that was not your fault. That's why I learned how to play two ends against the middle. Because remember, I was like, with my dad, I was like, yes, thank you. And then with you, I was like, fuck. And I would go crazy, right? And you would have these meetings and you would bring my dad over. Remember that? And then my dad would come
Yep.
over and I would act like a little angel, you know,
Yep.
and it reversed over the years. But you had so much. But you started, when did you start working on yourself? When did you start really like working on your codependency? Because you're not an addict, like, but you're an addict to codependency and you've been around it. When did you start working on that?
I just like you used to play two sides against the middle all the time, and I always had that fear. Oh my God, he's gonna go, he's gonna leave, he's gonna leave. So yeah, I overly enabled you in many ways that hurt you way, 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 way much. And I remember your dad always showed up. Yeah. I don't know. When it wasn't only you, then it was other circumstances because my whole life I always had this empty hole in me, and I always never felt happy. Even though I would smile and stuff, there was an emptiness in me, and I would always compare myself to others. I was always looking outside to make my inside happy, and naturally, I always picked the worst people to fill that hole. I mean, it just happened that way from the way I was brought up. You know, I watched my mother, who was a most loving mother, but she was also the most martyr, victim person on this earth. She always never could do for herself, always had others do for her. And that's how I grew up. And also totally fear based, which you already know that. How I was so fearful and made you half crazy. Um, so anyway, that's how I grew up, and I carried all that with me. And like we know, like I came from nothing. I had nothing. So when I met your dad, holy shit, like he had like big bucks in his pocket, and he bought me like three diamond rings. Two of them were thrown out the window. But it was like, oh my God, that was my. I was off and running when I met your dad. I was living in the project at that time. I had nothing, and I was like, Debbie, you remember my girlfriend Debbie? She introduced me to your dad. And when I met him, I was like, holy, this is so great. And you know how loud his personality was, and I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be heard. So yeah, I was off and running. But anyway, that was just a what helped me finally realize I needed help. Then I married another time, and I don't know. I just totally was at my wits end, and I just really felt like I was going crazy. I went to many therapists. No one helped. I could not get any help, and I just finally thought I got to go get help. And that's when I finally found um, help. And it wasn't easy. It's not easy when you have to work on yourself. It's very hard because I always thought it was everybody else. I never thought it was me. I thought, it was everybody else that made me unhappy. Um, and I always was pointing the finger, but it really was, I had to really take a look at myself. Because myself, I'll never forget the one therapist said to me, if your husband wouldn't have been a drunk, he would have never married you. So I went home and cried for like 3 days. It was the first time I realized something was wrong with me. So it was just the effects. There was nothing wrong with me. It was just the effects of how I grew up, and and I didn't know how to handle things. I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I didn't know how to raise children. Do you remember the one time I shamed you terribly? I still feel terrible about that.
What
But that was when you
came off the
when
bus?
you got off the bus. Somebody came. Do you remember that?
They
Tell
said
that
they said
story.
I showed my thing on the bus. I didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember that.
And what did I do immediately? I never. You were like, I think 8 or 9. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
8 or 9.
Hmm.
So I didn't take Charles. I didn't take you aside because of all the shame that I carried from my family. I immediately punished you and yelled at you because when they told me that, oh my God, I was so full of shame that my kid would do something like that. Never even asking you if it's true. That's the kind of mother I was. That's how I was affected. I was not well adjusted. I just was not well adjusted. I didn't have the tools.
Yeah, exactly.
I
But
remember that.
think about it too. Like you just told your story like last week, right? Like where you started. Me and you didn't work. Like blah 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 blah. So now we're talking about 8 years later. You're married, but you didn't have an opportunity. You didn't have like an opportunity to work on yourself. You didn't even know what that was. At this point, you've been in survival mode for all your life. You know what I mean? So now
Yeah.
you can look back and you can beat yourself up, or you can say, "Holy shit!" Like it takes time. So those things that you recognize, like over time, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, yeah, you get it. But like
Yeah.
you did with the best you could with what you had. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You
And
know.
I'm so thankful that I'm still alive. I'm so thankful and that you and I and that we talk about this stuff. I've been able to make I say I'm sorry to you. You understand that I did the best I could. I mean, that's a gift. That is a freaking gift, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah.
So,
You know what I mean? Like that's heavy. It really is. I got into it a little bit last week when I said like, why your story is like the most powerful story, and that's why because you did it not because you had to do it. You did it because there was something inside of you that just you were come hell or high water, you were gonna get right. You know what I mean? And you did.
yeah.
Part of you, because
Yeah.
I remember you would take on like everybody's opinion, and I got to a point, especially
Oh,
I got a little bit older, I really became the opposite, where I would kind of like, I would almost be like aggressive towards everybody's opinion. You know what I mean? And I think because I
mhm.
took some of that on, and I was like, "F their opinion." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I would be over the top with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still kind of
And do
like
you
that a little
remember
bit,
the
but
other? Huh?
I'm still kind of like that a little bit, but not even close like I used to be.
And do you remember the other day when I said your personality is your greatest and worst asset? And
Yeah.
the only, do you know what I meant by that?
Mm-mm. I do. I mean, tell
You
me.
don't?
I mean, I do, but tell me.
Your personality is so freaking awesome and you have such a gift. However, when you're on the dark side, that personality that ruins you. Do you understand that?
Totally. Yep.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad today you're in the light.
Yeah.
is your awesomeness. Yeah.
It's true. You
and
know.
and it ain't about like people go, oh my god, people are crazy and nuts and stuff, and it's such a it's such a fine line, because today I work with methadone. That's what I do, and I would have never even believed I would do that, because I didn't believe in medicine for people that have this addiction. But I really believe that's what my higher power has me doing today, because I really do see mothers that are able to take care of their babies and they're on methadone, and I don't judge them. I did judge them before, but my point was that, what the heck was my point? Where did I go off to methadone for? Do you remember?
No, you're
Oh,
shit.
your personality. How it changes everybody. And that's a whole nother topic for another day, because that we can really talk about that. I'm not even gonna get into all that.
But what are you saying with the methadone? Like when you brought about my personality, like what do you mean?
Well, like I just thought for a minute, like that's where I work now, and I thought about how it helps people become their true self, even though society believes they're not really sober. Society, um, first of all, half of society, I believe, don't even understand addiction or believe that it's really a disease. But it's much better to be mentally ill than to be an addict or an alcoholic. It's more acceptable to be mentally ill, which really pisses me off, because it's just that judgment on people that have this addiction. And alcohol, that's another thing. The people that I work with today, they're addicted to opiates, heroin, and oh my God, they're the scums of the earth. But reality is, the worst drug out there is alcohol. It kills and hurts more people directly and indirectly than anything. But it's in such a pretty package. It's in such a pretty package.
Yes.
A heroin addict is in a pretty
Right.
package.
You're not seeing heroin commercials
Yeah.
at the Super Bowl, are you?
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story,
Yeah.
especially now. Christmas is coming. What do you see on TV?
Yeah.
Oh, the beautiful liquor bottle. Isn't it so pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the dogs and animals and children that are being beaten and abused and starved above it from alcohol. Not somebody shooting a needle in their arm.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's heavy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
So I don't know. What do you what do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think I think it's heavy. I think today's conversation got pretty deep, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, addiction, codependency. I remember Willie told me one time he thinks the number one addiction in the world is codependency. You know what I mean? And I can agree with that because
Yeah.
like even like if you're not drinking, if you're not doing drugs, if you're not doing this, like codependency, that's the human people. Like we all have that need, you know what I mean? Where we want that acceptance in a way. And like that comes back to you when I was younger, like really wanting, oh my God, like how we look, you know what I mean? Maybe we're not the most educated, maybe we're not this, but then there's people out there that are looking so prettily packaged to the community, you know what I mean? And then it was like we weren't good enough. Then I got my dad who's basically for real, like lives with 2, 3 women, you know what I mean? So both ends of my thing, I'm like looking at the world and people like idolize my dad, you know what I mean? The people that knew you, especially as your journey went, like everybody like they love you guys, right? But it always felt like it was different. You know what I mean? From my shoes, it was always like, come on, like my dad's basically a pimp, like my, you know what I mean? Like this is where we come from. So I really took that on. That's where a lot of my insecurity came from, right? But then like I love you and my dad, so at the same time I'm proud of you and I'm gonna stand up for you guys. You know what I mean? But really, as the journey goes on, like that's where maybe the rooted and my because remember how anxious I used to be, mom? Like I used to like turn light switches on and off. I used to like make faces, get ulcers. Like if I would say like the number 42 and like you were like 35, I would stop and I'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I would count to like 100 and say, okay, my mom can die at 100. You know what I mean? Like I was like over the top. I was a nervous wreck when I was a kid. And I remember when I was working with Glenn, he was like, that was me trying to find some control, trying to find some safety. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
as much as like my addiction and my chaos all stems from that. you can't forget that when I went out there and all of a sudden you start drinking and you start feeling good and you start getting loose with the girls and all of a sudden this and all of a sudden that, there is an upside to it too. There is a part that feels amazing. It
Yes.
feels amazing. But then as life goes
Yeah.
on and you don't have control of that, you can't just have like that just amazing feeling, because now all of a sudden, yeah, it's amazing, but now all of a sudden I'm about to tear this house down. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So it's
Yeah.
almost like when they say like the word recovery or whatever, I look at it like recovering your youth, like recovering that innocence before you even got to the point where you needed to reach outside of yourself. Think about that. Little kids, like they're just content. Well, not now. Like they're all over the iPads and stuff. But think about that, mom. We're all the same. Your age, my age, all ages. We're all the same. We're all in the same boat. We're all these little
Hmm.
sweet souls, little kids that are tainted, and just the world. Like there's a white chalkboard that the world writes on you till you're 18. And then, your job is like as an adult to try to navigate and create your own path. Well, how are you going to do that? When you get messed up, it eliminates that whole board for the moment. But the next day you got that board, but now you're putting stuff on that board. But those moments
Yes.
and the times when I'm living right, mom, the times when people are actually showing up and doing a thing, you can take your time and you can look at the board and you can erase one of those things. Wow, this is one of my defects of character, whatever. You erase it. And over time, poo,
Hmm.
poo, 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 the board starts getting erased and you start being able to write on your own thing. But that is very uncomfortable. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes consistency, all that stuff, mom.
Yeah.
I like this 7 a.m. I'm on a roll
Absolutely.
at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. Yep.
So, what do you think, mom? I don't even know how long
Think
we've
we
been
should
on,
wrap
but
it up for today. We
yeah,
could go on and on and on and on and on and on.
we could go on. So I don't know. Why
We
don't you
got
why
some
don't
more.
you wrap up with what we just did here today, and why don't you just wrap it up, and then that'll be it. We'll close it out.
Okay. Well, I'll follow your lead. I'm a follower. Go ahead.
No, you're the leader now, because I'm giving it to you. I said all I had to say. You know what I mean?
Um, yeah, I think today was a good. I feel good. I feel like I'm getting more closure with, not closure. I feel like I'm getting more. I guess it is closure with you. As far as forgiveness with you, doing this. This is kind of, it's really, really neat. I feel um, closer to you. I love that. I just love you sober. That's all there is to it. It makes me sad that none of them could hang around, go for help and be with you because you're a great
What,
person.
the
You
women?
are such a great,
Nah,
huh?
you talking about the
Oh,
girls?
let's not even get
Oh
into
no,
that.
there's girls coming.
You're a great, 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 beautiful
Yeah,
soul.
they're coming.
It's just too bad.
They're
Someday
coming.
though,
They're coming, man.
somebody's gonna catch you and not let you go.
That's
And
funny.
that they're gonna be very happy because as long as you continue on this road, you're a great person.
That's funny.
All right, so that's all I got to say today.
Wrap it up on that note. You know what I mean? That's a good one. All right.
All right,
So that
Charlie,
was
I love
good.
you.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Mom, good morning. Now we're going to have a productive,
Good
positive
morning.
day.
Good luck.
Hey, get on that bike today. Is it set up?
I'm gonna get my hubby on there too.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I
Yep.
want to take a picture of it and send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. That's
All
awesome.
right. All right.
All right.
See you guys.
All right. All right. Love you.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.